Joining us now is the outgoing city manager for the city of Palm Springs, David Reddy. With 1 foot out the door, you made a pretty big announcement today. Tell us about it.
Hey, Gino. So we thought that it was important to go back to the state standard, the state regulation of allowing bars and restaurants to be open until 2 a.m. We thought that it was important to do that. It certainly will help our local businesses. But the key thing here is everyone still must maintain social distancing where they're face covering. So those rules still remain in effect. But I think the numbers, the COVID numbers that are improving allow us to make this change at this time.
Yeah, tell me about the thinking process behind pulling the trigger, if you will, today. The numbers are going down, but they seem to have plateaued at a bottom. Was there something in the science that made the city comfortable with allowing businesses to stay open later?
Sure, we've been following the trends, and as we all know, our economy is hurting, and we're trying to always find that balance between the right amount of safety and the amount of opening up, if you will. So what we thought now with the numbers on the trajectory that they are, that we anticipate that we'll be back into the red category, hopefully in the next few weeks, that we would be able to try this. If we find if we have problems on it, we always can revert back, but we think the state guidelines of 2 a.m., it seems to be working at the state level. And so myself and city council had a comfort level with making that change at this time.
Right. Now, I know it's deceiving, if you will, because right now it's tough to get a reservation to get dinner in Palm Springs. If you drive down Palm Canyon most any day, but especially the weekends, the streets seem pretty full. The restaurants seem pretty packed. Now, I understand it's with reduced capacity and everything's outside, so it may look busier, but have we at least turned the corner, does it seem like, on getting back on track to what you would expect Palm Springs in February to look like?
Well, by no means it's nowhere near normal. And even when we go back into the red tier, there'll still be sort of severe restrictions on occupancies. But that being said, this is a clear improvement in the right direction. This allows businesses potentially to have the opportunity to do better than they have been. We're trying to accommodate, obviously, our local market, our tourism market, but at the same time, making sure everyone's safe. So we do know that, other California cities that had restrictions are now following the state guidelines, and we think it's safe to do the same in Palm Springs.
Right, and how much of this is projection by the city? Yeah, the rates are down, but also there's going to be a third COVID vaccine probably on the market next week, which means more people will get vaccinated. So more people who've gotten it and are theoretically at least partially immune, more people with vaccines, and now more vaccines available. Is some of this projecting that things will continue to get better?
Yeah, well, we're following the state and county public health guidelines very closely. And another interesting thing is, we've been testing our wastewater treatment plant where we had very high numbers of COVID over the last couple months, but they have dropped significantly. So we even have extra data that the state or the county is not providing us. So we certainly follow their guidelines, but we also have some local indicators as well.
All right, let's explain that a little bit, because you and I know what you're talking about when you say testing the wastewater. It's not something every city does, because frankly, not every city has the capability. Palm Springs does. So tell us what you were doing just to check your numbers against, the testing numbers, which, let's face it, were inconsistent at best.
Sure. So since Palm Springs does have a wastewater treatment facility, we actually take samples every week and we send them out to a company that actually does the analysis. Now, it's not an exact science, but it gives us a range. So for example, a couple months ago, it would say that potentially we might have had 3,000 cases somewhere in the Palm Springs system, and that is now reduced significantly to below 1,000 or less. And again, those are estimates, but we don't rely on that entirely. What we rely on is that combined with, obviously, state and county public health data before we make any decisions.
Right, because that would be a test of any given time, which means Palm Springs residents, maybe tourists who are at the hotel, people using the restaurants, facilities. So
we test it weekly.
Right.
Correct.
But it would be anybody that was in town that week, whether they lived here or not, which gave you an idea of how infectious the city was in that snapshot.
Correct. And so those numbers have gone down significantly, very significantly. And that is one of the reasons why we felt a little more comfort in making this change that we did to allow restaurants to be open until 2 a.m.
All right. And then finally, sir, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your service to the city. You were here as long as I've been sitting in this chair. You've been city manager in Palm Springs. I think you did a terrific job. And I don't know what job you're going to do next that's going to allow you to test poop water every week, but I certainly hope you all the best.
Well, thank you kindly, and thanks for your support of Palm Springs.
All right. City Manager David Reddy, we're back.